Well, hello everybody. Thanks for coming on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. I know some of you I saw at the farmers market earlier, so thanks for coming. Thanks to some of the H.A.N.S members I see too. That's always nice to see. And all the friendly volunteers, thank you for coming too. So today, my name is Laurel. First of all, I work with Health Action Network Society, which is the charity that's putting on this afternoon's event with the help of some of our locals in the community. You may be wondering why we're here and who is H.A.N.S. Well, we are a charitable natural health resource that provides info on preventative medicine and natural therapeutics through events just like this. We also share information through our quarterly magazine, which you'll find just on your seats. If you don't have one, come grab one from me and I'll happily give it to you. As well, we share information through our website and our staffed offices in Burnaby, BC. So we're up here for the weekend and it's been lovely so far. We've been around since the early 80s and have been very active on many health issues to date, including the proposed GM apple, which some of you may or may not know about, and Kevin's going to touch on that in a couple minutes. We thought it'd be great to do a natural nutrition event in one of the most beautiful places in BC, the Okanagan Valley, so thanks for having us. Lots of personal connections here, and we thought it would be a great fit. So there's a variety of reasons why people get in touch with us. Sometimes they want to know just how to eat more holistically, or they come to us with a more personal story, like I've just been diagnosed with cancer. Please tell me everything you know about the body's natural healing capabilities, or can you put me in touch with a natural health practitioner in my area? If we don't have the answer right away, we do our best to find it for you, and we act on the consumer's behalf. We are membership-based. If you've ever heard of H.A.N.S and you enjoyed this event, please consider joining. There's lots of members' faces I see, so thanks again for coming. But really, what we really want for people is to find their own personal healing powers, take charge of their health, and feel positive doing it. That's what we hope today's event brings for you, a positive outlook on what you can do to improve your health through natural nutrition. We've got a great lineup of speakers today. First up, we've got Dr. Jessie Weens, a lovely naturopathic doctor who is also a mommy-to-be, practicing in both Penticton and Summerland. She'll be speaking about immune function, and especially with it being cold season coming up, this is a must-see. And following Jessie, we have Lisa Kilgore, who is a registered holistic nutritionist, very popular speaker in the Okanagan. Some of you may have already heard her speak. She'll be speaking all about the digestion system and the importance of fermented foods in our diet. Last up, we have Dr. Sherry Ure, who's a longtime H.A.N.S supporter, and she'll be talking about nutrition and the endocrine system. We've got some lovely gift baskets here, so if you've got a number, we'll be raffling those off throughout the event, so hang on to that. Your odds are pretty good. And first up, Kevin Proteau of Locals Loving Locals will let you know a little bit about the GM apple and what you can do if you would like to support this campaign. So, here's Kevin.
Hi, thank you. It's actually locals supporting locals, but I do like locals loving locals. At the end of the day, with everything going on in the world, I think a lot of us have lost that loving feeling. So, and that is the cure-all to end all of this, the love. So I live here locally in Penticton, and Laurel was in touch with me because I'm very active on many health and environmental issues in the interior here. Many of us have familiar opinions on natural health. Some of you may know or may not know that I started up an organization called Locals Supporting Locals, and a lot of what I do is published to a calendar here. And when I started to see what was happening with our food and the corporatization of it, the genetic modification, the patenting, I'm like, holy cow, what can I do? So I took my skills and I put together this calendar here. It's very informative. The theme of it's real living with real food, because at the end of the day, our grandparents just called it food, as opposed to now it's organic. And so they're over here, and they are by donation, whatever you can give, because there's only 4 months. But the best way to explain Locals Supporting Locals is just to go through the calendar with you quickly here. So firstly, it tells you who we are, what we do, why we do it, why it's very important to shop locally in order to stop corporatization, which is fascism, and I'm talking to big multinationals here. So you keep your money local to start with here. And it shows you how to find us on Facebook and YouTube. And now we have an internet radio show. We do once a week, and it gets uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can visit all our archives. But we do talk about hard-hitting issues, such as what are GMOs, what to look out for when you're shopping. Dr. Shiv Chopra, who worked as a head scientist for Health Canada for 35 years, he discovered what was causing mad cow and the RBGH, the growth hormone, and instead of being commended, he was actually fired. And Alex Ivanenko wrote about how the Canadian Food Inspection Agency changed the term local so that the big box stores can actually lie to you and tell you that they're bringing in local produce and they're not. So what we did, because of that too, is we have our Shop Local cutout directory on here, and it's strictly locally owned businesses. And we included farm fresh symbols with the businesses, the restaurants and cafes that actually do bring in real farm produce. So if you want to go out for dinner and have quality food, that's your guide for you. And then it's who our farmers are, what they grow, how to find them all again. And we include food facts because at the end of the day, this is your pharmacy right here. People in North America are so disconnected with our food and they've forgotten that it's our medicine. So, for example, kidney beans look like kidneys. If you have problems with your kidneys, guess what? Eat kidney beans. Doesn't come from the pill bottle, right? So we included our festivals and events because that's what we like to celebrate. This is what we fight for: is to live life, but we want to live it healthy, right? So we got all of our farmers markets on here, and then it also includes at the back of the calendars money-saving coupons here. Right, so they're by donation over here. So whatever you can give, even if it's a quarter, it does not matter. Sadly, the printers don't take money for money. I tried, but I do say that it's advertising with a purpose. So we're just about in the middle of next month when we go into print for our third calendars here. So if anybody's interested, all the information's there. As well, we're very solution oriented. And I'm very happy to say that we, Locals Supporting Locals, is going to be promoting some of the candidates that are running in the elections, but we got one in particular that runs right in line with our values. And it's actually Ryan Foster, who's sitting over here. He's a local organic cherry farmer. He's a father of a 1-year-old, and he's got another one coming next month. So he's having them back to back here, but he's a herbalist, teaches food forestry, foraging to kids and adults, and I think that's a good step to the beginning of real change here in Penticton here. So by all means, if you have any questions for him, he's right over here. He hasn't officially announced it yet, still putting together all the paperwork and everything, the platforms here, but by all means, go say hello to him. So now just to talk about the Okanagan Specialty Fruits, getting to the apple part here. Okanagan Specialty Fruits has asked the Canadian and U.S. governments to approve a genetically engineered non-browning apple. The non-browning apple is geoengineered to keep it from browning after being cut. And so basically, they could slice it open, leave it on a table for 2 weeks and come back and it will look like it was just freshly cut. So now this could land up in the schools and into your children's mouths here, and so they've taken out that gene that actually tells you not to eat me because I'm bad, and so it's quite scary here. So so the BC Fruit Growers Association officially opposes the GM apple as well as the U.S. Apple Association. Working alongside GE Free BC and H.A.N.S has reached out to stores across BC asking for a written commitment not to sell the GMO apple. At the end of the day, where you put your dollar is where we make the change. So we control a lot just with where you spend your money here. And for a list of stores, please check the responses from the store owners and managers. Or wait, for a list of stores, please check out page 7 of the summer issue of the Health Action magazines. And if you are interested in this campaign, please talk to our local store manager or your local store manager and see what their stance is and get in touch with H.A.N.S. So yeah, again, it's up to you. Go to the stores. I remember you wanted to move the farmers market into Safeway parking lot, and I was a little perturbed by that, so I went down to the produce section at the Safeway, And I asked for the manager, and I said, can you please point me out to your local produce section? He says, we don't have one. I'm like, really? Okanagan, we're agricultural capital here in the Okanagan. And they said because they like everything to look and taste the same right across Canada. So it's up to us, you know, so we have to go after them. And if you're interested in this campaign, please talk to store managers and see what their stance is and get in touch with H.A.N.S. If you have any questions for me, please chat with me at the table over here. And if you also have any questions for Ryan, we'll just be over there. And so now we'll be introducing
Jesse Means.
Jesse.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to get set up not quite behind the podium now, so you won't see me. Now, can everybody hear me okay like that?
Yes.
All right. We'll see. I might wander and take this with me. If you have a hard time hearing me in back, just do this because I do have a tendency to not be loud enough. I don't have a big, manly voice that spreads across the room. What's this? Close. Okay. All right, so most of you have a copy of these slides that was on your seat. If you snuck into the back row, you don't have them. So the eager beavers get the notes. I do have some cards on the side as well as on the back of the notes, my website. And usually for all my lectures, I put up a copy of the PowerPoint for about a week on the website, so you can go and download that and have the information as well. Because there's a lot that I want to share with you, and so I've tried to put it up so you can see and follow along with me that way, as well as have the handout. So usually what I do is, after each section, I'll ask if there's questions, and feel free to put up your hand and ask anything that you want about what we've just talked about before we move on. So you don't have to hold all your questions to the end. We will have time at the end for questions as well. And I'm going to cover a few different topics today, all centered around the immune system. But first I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself and naturopathic medicine and what that looks like and how we can help you. And I'll talk a little bit about colds and flus, some basic information about viruses and how they work and what you need to know. And some information about our immune system, because when we get into looking at nutrition and herbs and what areas they're targeting and what their effects are, then we need to know what they're doing. Let me try this. Not pro or mouse. Okay. Let's try that. All right, so I'm going to go over mostly things that have to do with foods and some supplements, treatments that you can use on your own at home to heal yourself, help your family, treatments that are safe to play around with, and you can use to build healthy communities and help your neighbors and stay well. And that's the goal. The goal of the talk is not to get you all in to come and see us, because there are so many basics for keeping up your immune system that there's a lot that you can do on your own, and it's good information to know. So I'll tell you quickly about naturopathic medicine. My designation is ND, naturopathic doctor, and that has a set of principles along with it, as well as specific types of treatments that we focus on. So in BC, we do have a fairly big scope of practice, and we have prescription rights, we have lab access. Primarily what we want to do are use natural treatments to help support your body's own healing power. So that includes foods, herbs, some homeopathics. I do a lot of hands-on structural work in my clinic, so if people come in with almost any ailment, we're still checking out the back and the spine. If you've digestive problems, I still want to get my hands on you and check your lower back. And so I see people also for chronic pain and injuries. So it's a bachelor degree and a 4-year medical degree, but in naturopathic medical school. Are you coming to help me? I know. Thank you. That may be why it was propped up over here. I might have to hide behind the podium. It's just that I'm not very tall. So. or I'll just take it. And so naturopathic medical school, we learn conventional care as well as some different ways of viewing and assessing health in the body and using primarily natural treatments to help. So we treat anything from colds to cancer, everything in between, mostly chronic illnesses, which means issues that have been happening for days to weeks to months to years. Acute issues are things that happen overnight, like you wake up and you think you broke a bone or you have an ear infection. Generally, our offices are not set up for same-day appointments. So that's when your medical doctor is set up to get you in right away. So the principles are what get me all excited. And this is when I first learned this, when that's what I want to do. So this guides our assessments and treatments and our role in the community, which is first do no harm and use treatments that are not going to be harmful to the body, and a lot of education. So when you come in and I have recommendations for you, I'm going to tell you all about what got me to that recommendation and why it's good for you. And part of that is our professional mandate to build healthy communities and be engaged in public education. So you'll see naturopathic doctors out. Dr. Sherrier will be here later as well, telling you all very helpful information to help you be strong and healthy. Generally, our treatments are supporting the healing power of the body. We want to figure out what's going on, so that's to treat the cause, and usually there's more than one. Preventative medicine, so when people come in and they have issues like, say, digestion or hormonal problems, and we've cleared those up, the next step is to look at any areas that need more support in the body and look at family history and where you are in your life and your occupation, and help prevent any further imbalance from happening in your life. So it's not just about fixing the one thing that brought you in. We want to help you be healthy. And treating the whole person, which means if you come in with headaches and stomach aches, we're going to talk about stress and what your life looks like and how you're sleeping, and do the structural assessment and go through everything. Now, does anyone have any questions about naturopathic medicine before we move on to the immune boosting stuff? All right. So, colds and flus, this is mainly what we're talking about when we are looking at the fall and winter coming and what we want to prevent. And there's a little bit of a difference between these two and how we treat them and when we treat them. So the cold, most people are familiar with, it tends to start with upper respiratory symptoms. So a little bit of congestion through the nose, a bit of a sore throat, and usually it's about 2 days after you've been exposed to the cold virus for you to feel the cold virus. So you can think, where was I 2 days ago? And who was it that gave it to me? And for the cold, you're contagious really only for a few days after you've been having symptoms. So SX up there, that means symptoms, it's shorthand. So once the congestion is resolved and you're feeling better, you're not quite as contagious unless you're still sneezing or coughing, then you should stay home. With the flu, it comes on generally quite suddenly and has more systemic effects. So you'll feel really tired, achy, fever, as well as the cough and sore throat. The tricky part with the flu is that you can be contagious before you're even having the symptoms. And this is why it spreads so fast through the community, because you can be at the bank and the bank teller's fine, and then an hour later she's down and going home for the day, and you've been exposed as well. So it's something we really want to keep our immune system strong so we can fight it and we get exposed to it all over. Now, once you get the flu, you're contagious before your symptoms and for quite a few days after. So of course there's individual variation there, but approximately 5 days. So if you're tired, stay home and rest. You don't go to work because you'll get more people sick. So when I do this type of presentation for workplaces and banks, and I always try to emphasize that they should be staying home. If you're not well, you should stay home, and it helps everybody else, your coworkers and your family and whoever you're going to be in contact with. So they're spread by viruses, and generally through the air. So if someone's talking to you and there's air droplets or coughing or sneezing, it's coming through the respiratory passages. So the first point of contact is through the nose and through the mouth, and that's important to know because of some of the treatments I'm going to talk about. And there is a difference in theory when we look at germs and how we get sick. And this is what I mean by terrain versus germ. So some people are mostly focused on the germ, like, okay, the flu, it's a virus, or Ebola is coming, and we've got to just incubate ourselves and hide out and protect ourselves from that and wash our hands 100 times, versus our terrain, which means we actually live in a sea of germs, bacteria, viruses, amoebas, parasites, and what is most important is for our systems to be strong so that we can fight those. Because we are actually more bacterial cells than we are human cells. And so being concerned more with a sterile environment is not the approach to go. We want to build our own systems and protective mechanisms. All right, a little bit about the immune system. I'm going to talk about the cells, and if that's too much information for you, you don't really have to know it, but I thought I'd put that in for people who are interested. But our immune system refers to a whole bunch of areas in the body that all work together to keep us from getting further penetration from germs. So that's their surfaces, so our skin, our lungs, in our stomach, we've got stomach acid, in our tears, our saliva. Anywhere that the external world comes in contact with us, there are components there that are part of our immune system that are antimicrobial. And then within us, we've got our white blood cells that move around through our blood and our lymph system, our lymph tissues, and I'll show you those, and our lymphatic organs, which is the thymus, the spleen, and the bone marrow. So that's on this lovely lady, and I don't have a pointer. So you'll have to follow along a little bit there, but all of those blue channels is our lymphatic system. So that's not the blood, this is a separate circulation system. And that's where all our white blood cells circulate, and it's important that we support our lymphatic system too, so we'll talk about that. But they all drain up into lymph nodes, so little centers, hubs of activity, and those are in quite a few places. We know most people are familiar with lymph nodes, these chains here under the chin and in front behind this muscle. When your body's fighting something, they do get swollen, and that's a good thing. If they get stuck swollen for a long time, then we need to take care of it. But generally that means that you're having an immune response. That's good. And areas that are important for the immune system are the thymus, which is a gland that sits on the heart, our spleen, which sits under our ribs, and in our intestines. So we have these patches all along our intestines, and those are really important for our immune system. So our digestion is also important for the immune system. We'll talk a bit about that. Lisa's going to talk a lot about that too. We have two main types of white blood cells. And if you've ever gotten your lab work done at the doctor and you've seen the report, they do look at what are the balance of your different white blood cells and how many of each type, because they have different jobs. Some of them are phagocytes, which means they go around and they chew up bits in the environment presented on the cells so that our immune system can read what's happening. Who's in there? Is it all our own stuff, or are there foreign invaders in there? The lymphocytes are our memory cells, and that is what helps us when we get exposed to one virus, and then it has our memory so that when we get exposed to it again, it remembers how to fight that and creates a good response. So those memory cells are called B cells and T cells, and they have different jobs. But B cells make antibodies, or proteins that flag bacteria or viruses, and T cells actually do a lot of the work. They go around and kill all those cells with the flags on them and help activate our army. So different herbs have different effects on these white blood cells. And here's a picture of them. So if you take some of your blood and have a peek, it looks kind of like this. All those red discs are our red blood cells. The blue confetti are our platelets. That helps with our blood clotting. And all these funny looking guys with the nucleus in the middle with different shapes are a different type of white blood cells. And they're not that color, they're just that color in this picture. But we need all of those to be nice and healthy and working for our immune system to be working. So how do you know if you don't have a good immune system? For one, you get recurrently sick, or if you get sick, it lasts a long time, it goes quite deep in the body. Some people know if I get a cold, it's going to go to my lungs, and then I'm going to get pneumonia. It happens every year. But there are some other signs. So if you're tired a lot, then likely your immune system's not functioning well either. People who have a lot of allergies also have a decreased response to colds and flus, mostly because of some of the nutrition that you're burning through on a daily basis. Lots of sore throats, tendency to swollen glands, headaches, aches. These are all signs that your immune system needs a boost. So, and there are a lot of things that can lower your immunity. So this is a short list, but stress is probably top of the list. I see that a lot in patients. And stress means physical stress, emotional stress, chemical stress. So you can be a happy, functioning person, but be working in a really toxic, loud environment. And that's stress to the body. And why that's not good is because you get more cortisol released, and cortisol is a hormone that lowers your immune system. Dietary fat imbalances, so if you have lots of fried foods, saturated fats, low omega fats. Sugar lowers your immune system if you've got imbalance in your bacteria, because we need those helpers. Alcohol, smoking, chemical pollutants, lack of sleep. If you're not getting to bed before midnight, then your immune system is not as well as it should be. Too much caffeine is overly stimulating to the body, and we're going to talk about the nutrients. So if you have nutrient deficiencies, if you have a lack of those in your diet, or you have absorption issues and you're not absorbing them and using them, that's going to lower your immune system. And there are some prescription medications, especially the steroids. So prednisone, some of the inhalers, those mimic cortisol and lower our immune system. Any questions about that? Okay. So some of this you guys will know, all of our basic nutrients, and some of it will be a little bit new. So our important nutrients are a lot of our antioxidants, but vitamin A is on that list, and you get vitamin A in orange foods and green foods. So fall, usually people are getting a fair bit in their diet, squashes, yams, carrots, pumpkin pie. And vitamin A helps maintain our barriers. So all of those mucus barriers through the nose and the mouth keeps those strong, and it also boosts your own white blood cell activity. So all your leafy greens that you're getting, if you're making some good smoothies, those are all high in vitamin A. So that's not one that we very often have to supplement. It's usually one that people can do a good job of getting in their diet. It is stored in the liver, so you don't need to have a big bunch of vitamin A every day. Your body's got its own storage that will slowly deplete over time if you miss a few days of your lunch veggies. What I see in clinic is that some people who are not absorbing fat well, which means people who don't have gallbladders, tend to get low in vitamin A. And so for those people, sometimes we supplement or improve how their body is digesting and absorbing fat, and then you get all your fat-soluble nutrients. So vitamin C is one of my favorite ones to talk about. People think it's kind of boring because they know all about vitamin C, but it's very interesting. It has so many roles in the body. And when we call something a vitamin, it means that our bodies cannot make it, and you need it externally. So through food, ideally, or as a supplement. So vitamin C, it helps kill viruses, it repairs all of your tissues, enzymes in your cells use it, and it's also a natural antihistamine, which is why it's often used for allergies. So it helps with our skin, it's in a lot of beauty treatments, it helps with energy, it helps through the brain, and it's really highly concentrated in our white blood cells. So that's why we need a lot for our white blood cells to be functional and happy. And if we get low, then they get sluggish. It's the most helpful right before you get sick, or right when you're feeling symptoms, because it boosts the activity of those white blood cells. So it's not something that's important to take if it's been a few weeks out and you're still needing to recover from the flu. This is something you want to have in your cupboard to take right away, or if you're going on a plane, or you're going to visit your grandkids, or an area where there's going to be lots of germs, then you can boost up your vitamin C for a few days. So why I think it's so interesting is that almost every other animal, they don't need vitamin C in their diet. It's in fact not called vitamin, it's ascorbic acid. So we as humans have a mutation in our genes that we can't make it. And this is not a good mutation for us because, as I explained, it's so important for so many areas. So along with us, bats, guinea pigs, there are some other primates, and some birds can't make it, and they need to have a lot in their diet. Because of the world we live in, and it being so contaminated and lots of chemicals, we actually need even more vitamin C, because it helps us also with our detoxification. So we actually need a lot, and this is often one that people do supplement during certain periods of time to build the immune system, or to help your adrenals, or for energy or tissue repair. So in foods, it's great. We get lots of vitamin C in our foods in the Okanagan, especially in the summer, because we're eating tons of fruits and berries and stone fruits and all the good stuff. In the winter, it's still focused mostly on fruits. There are some vegetables as well. Peppers, broccoli, of course the berries, tomatoes and carrots, they all have a fair bit of vitamin C. So I've given you dosages as a supplement. This is not my computer, so I'm just going to do this and we'll see what happens. Okay. So I've given you ranges for kids up to adults, and you can take it any which way you want. The only bad thing that will happen if you take way too much is it makes you have loose stool. And if you're constipated, then that's a good thing too. So you can't get into too much trouble. So the tissues that use vitamin C the most are our adrenal glands, the pituitary in the brain, the thymus, which is that important gland on the heart that matures your T cells, and the eyes. And then there are other areas as well. So if you're low in vitamin C, often your skin doesn't repair well, and you can get discolorations on the skin also. If you've got lots of vitamin C, you reduce cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality, which means death by any disease. So in general, if you're high in your vitamin C, across the board, cancer, cardiovascular disease, it helps protect you against that. All right. Vitamin E is another antioxidant, and that's high in nuts and seeds, and that helps your immune system, especially your B cells. Zinc is one I like to talk about because it's a common deficiency, which means there's not a lot in our diets typically, and it's really important for the immune system, as well as neurotransmitters and our metabolism. So pumpkin seeds are a really good source, and there's some supplementation levels as well. What I see clinically is that people who are low in zinc often have been through a lot of infections and used up a lot of zinc. If you have allergies, your body uses up a lot of zinc and needs more. People who eat a lot of dairy tend to not absorb as much zinc, so they need that as a supplement. And people who are elderly or on any medications that interfere with your mineral absorption, like acid blockers, also tend to need extra zinc. A couple more nutrients, and we'll get to some of the more fun stuff like herbs. So iron is really important for the immune system, and the people that need that the most are people who are losing it, which means menstruating women, kids going through growth spurts. So sometimes in the teenage years, some extra iron is helpful, but it's best to be tested for that first, and then get a dose of what you might need. On its own, taking a whole bunch of iron is inflammatory and can aggravate cardiovascular disease. And that's why we don't give men extra iron or have iron in men's multis in general. Because for the most part, we get a fair bit in the diet. All of our animal proteins have iron, as well as some of our leafy greens, nuts and seeds. Yes, question?
With the iron, is there a difference in that between the liquid form that's apparently easily assimilated and the pill form, in terms of if you just take it and you haven't been assessed?
Okay, so the question is about different forms of iron and their absorption, and there are a lot of different forms of iron, and they all are absorbed differently. And it's hard to compare milligrams to milligrams for those different forms because the ratio of absorption is so different. So some of them you only absorb 10%. The rest hangs around and irritates the digestive system. So some people know they can't take iron because then they don't poop. But there are other forms of iron that are easier to absorb, and I tend to favor liquid iron because it's easier to absorb. You don't have to break down those tablets or capsules. So as a capsule, I like the iron bisglycinate. And as a liquid, there's a few different forms depending on how fast we want to get levels on. Mhm.
could you still be overloading your system with the liquid easily assimilatable iron?
Not likely, because most of the liquids are low dose, they're well absorbed, but they're not as high as the tablets. But it is best to get followed with a blood test. A ferritin check tells you your iron stores, and then you can see if you still need it or not.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Selenium is a mineral, and it's an antioxidant, and it's low in our foods. It's really important for the thyroid, and it's really important for the immune system. It's found in Brazil nuts, seafood, and whole grains. So I was watching Dr. Oz a while ago, and he was telling everyone to throw a Brazil nut in their green smoothie for selenium. And I thought that was pretty good advice. So vitamin D has been a hot topic for the last few years. The latest hot topic in immune health is a lot of different research on strains of probiotics, so we'll talk about that, and Lisa will also talk a bit about those. But vitamin D is known as the sunshine vitamin. And we generally get a lot of it activated through our skin in the sun in the summer, and in the winter we don't get that. And that's when we really need vitamin D so that our immune system is strong and healthy. So we used to think it was just helpful for bones and a bit for our immune system, and now we see in research that most people are low, and a deficiency is a risk factor for almost any chronic disease we can think of to test. So cancer, autoimmune issues, diabetes, but most things. So they've been trying to turn back the clock here and make sure that at the base level, the recommendations for babies is to supplement vitamin D in babies because they're not getting enough. But also it's helpful to supplement moms who are making breast milk, and that goes to the babies, and that's helpful, as well as adults who need it too. This is a fat-soluble vitamin, so if you don't have a gallbladder, you're not absorbing it as well as most. And its use in the diet is mostly, I don't have it on there. In the diet, it's mostly animal products, so vegans don't really have vitamin D in high levels in their body, and often that comes up low on testing. So there are general recommendations for dosages. It's best to get a blood test and see where you're at, to see how much you need to take. And that is available. It used to be more on the menu for the GPs, and MSP would cover it, but they just changed that about a year and a half ago. And so you have to pay through the doctor too, or you have to pay through if you come see a naturopathic doctor.